right, guys, we are back with another Dead End Drive-In. I am Flesh Wound Dan, joined as always by Dirk.
How's it going, man?
It's going. Very excited tonight. We're tackling a new genre for the show, and I'm also joined by Darren, both of Subjective Perspective Collective here on YouTube. How are you guys doing?
Oh, pretty good, man. I'm pretty hyped for these, man. Some Poliziotteschi.
Yeah.
Let's get it.
Yeah. I'm very eager to talk about this genre because I feel like there's a lot of horror fans that might be kind of curious and haven't dipped their toes, but I do think there's a lot of crossover appeal with the Poliziotteschi Eurocrime genre, and as you'll find, very nasty. In many ways, a lot more gruesome than a lot of Italian horror is. And I think we got two tonight that one in particular, I think that really goes for the gruesomeness. So,
right. I don't think I've ever seen and I've only kind of dipped my toe into these, Italian crime films, but I've not seen one yet that I don't like in some way or other. So I'm really, because I'm loving all the kind of giallo, because they've all got giallo elements, or a lot of them have as well. So there's that crossover. So yeah, I'm gonna really be digging into in the future, all these crime films. I'm gonna try and get as many as I can.
Yeah, man, and it's like for the time when they were coming out, it's like this shit was really happening over there. It probably hit harder for Italians, like over in Italy, I mean, some crazy shit going on over there.
It was the years of lead, wasn't it? I think it lasted 20 years from the late 60s to maybe the late 80s. You were getting politicians were being kidnapped. And all the stuff you see in the films were happening for real, which, like Dirk said, is amazing when you think about it.
It is, in fact, for anybody that went out to see The First Omen, a lot of the unrest is portrayed in that film that was existing in Rome at that particular time. It was a great time for social unrest here as well, but certainly Europe got that as well. And it's a strange genre. So as we dive into the Poliziotteschi Eurocrime genre, it was a little bit different. Spaghetti westerns were huge in America. The Poliziotteschi Eurocrime films, not so much. They were huge hits overseas, obviously, and I don't know, Darren, if they were popular in the UK at the time. Would have been before your time.
I can't remember. Yeah, probably a little bit before my time, but I can't remember seeing too many of them on the video, shelves or anything like that. I've just literally sort of dived into them within the last year of doing the streams I do with Dirk. And I'm liking everything. So
we haven't really been exposed to too many. I mean, maybe the past 20 years is when they hit the States,
Yes, and to be honest, there's quite a few big ones that still, haven't had great distribution out here. So I think we're in a boom period for this genre now. We were talking off air. A lot of the almost all, not all, but almost all of the more notable 80s horror films now have been on DVD. They've been on Blu-ray. A lot of that stuff's kind of drying up. So one of the joys I have in doing shows like this is to introduce people to new things. And so even if you're a horror fan and you're thinking I'm not into this, you might be. We'll see at the end of the review.
It's definitely got some elements, and it's definitely got some brutality. So
yes, heavy. Absolutely. And before I tell you guys about the first movie we're doing tonight, just a little bit of history with this particular film, which is the 1976 Umberto Lenzi directed movie, The Tough Ones. So just a little build up before I give you the synopsis on this. So In 1973, director Enzo G. Castellari had a massive hit with a film called High Crime with Franco Nero. This is, still relatively early in the Eurocrime wave, which was Italy always borrowed from the Americans and made it their own. This was a reaction to the Dirty Harry films, Death Wish, and a lot of the U.S. crime and cop films that were really popular of that era. And High Crime comes out in 1973, and it was a massive, massive hit in Italy and other territories in Europe. Coming off of that film, things get a little bit muddled here for those of you trying to keep track. Huge hit. So the director, Enzo's asking price was massive. Franco Nero's asking price was massive. He'd done, spaghetti westerns for a long time at that point and was just looking to do different things. So the producer, Edmondo Amati, he ended up actually hiring Castellari's dad, Marino Girolami, to do a film called Violent Rome. And he cast Franco Nero lookalike Maurizio Merli, which is a name, if you're familiar with this genre, right. He's up there. He's one of the titans. And so this is where things get a little more muddled because there are sequels to Violent Rome. Now, Violent Rome is still essentially a follow-up to High Crime. In High Crime, Franco Nero is called Commissioner Belli, and it's Commissioner Betty in Rome. So, it's like essentially the same guy, but they don't use the same name. Violent Rome gets sequels, Violent Naples, and A Special Cop in Action. And Tough Ones, where that kind of fits into this mold, it's considered a pseudo sequel to Violent Rome. Once again, Commissioner Betty, Commissioner Belli. So it gets very confusing.
Did you hear something about this? That this was going to be called Rome Has a Secret, and Lenzi didn't like it. He said the script was shit. He rewrote the script in a week.
Yeah,
and come up with Rome Armed to the Teeth, or the Tough Ones, but or Roma a Mano Armata. I love it.
Yeah,
I can't say too many things in Italian, but I think I got that one close anyway.
Keeping these movies straight was always very hard because it was released everywhere under these different titles, and it gets quite confusing.
You'd have to look who's in it probably to figure it out.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe.
Very hard to keep it straight. Believe me, we probably did more research for this show than I would most of the horror shows because it gets very, very confusing the way the Italians did it. So this film, Tough Ones, does get a proper sequel called The Cynic, The Rat, and The Fist. I'll get into that more a little bit later because then that continues its own sort of lineage. But so just to let you know what the Tough Ones is all about, a tough, rule-bending cop pursues a maniacal, trigger-happy hunchback, a one-handed bank robber, and their cronies in an effort to bring Rome's most powerful crime lord to justice. So this movie had some really funny taglines to it. I believe. You mentioned. Well, first off, some of the alternate titles you mentioned: Brutal Justice.
Okay.
You mentioned Rome Armed to the Teeth. Assault
That's
with
probably
a
my
deadly
favorite
weapon.
title.
I like Rome Armed to the Teeth as well. It stands out a little bit more, I think, as well. And the tagline for the film was the inspector makes Dirty Harry look like Mr. Clean.
Hell.
Right. Yeah, that kind of makes sense, actually.
Yeah. very cool, very clever. And at this particular point, Umberto Lenzi was already well established in the genre. He had done Gang War in Milan, Almost Human, Syndicate Sadists, which I know is a favorite of you guys. Yeah, that's an amazing, amazing movie. And so going into this is kind of a standout year for the Poliziotteschi. There was a lot coming out at this time. It was really kind of the dawn of it at its most massive popularity. We get Tomas Milian in this, who
highly underrated, man. Like he should have been like a De Niro, a Pacino. To me, he's right there with those guys, if not better. You know, that's a bold statement, but
yeah.
I mean, he could have been a Bond villain. He's that good.
He could play anything I've seen. You know, I mean,
he fared fairly well because he had some crossover. He was in a lot of American films later in his career, and probably had a better run overseas than even Franco Nero, as far as just making American films. You know, Milian was able to kind of make a mark in American films versus just the Italian stuff that got imported. And what a villain in this.
Yeah. But didn't I was reading up like Thomas Milian, and like didn't they like him and Lenzi like just didn't see eye to eye? They literally they work together. Yeah, and they bring the best out of each other, but they just couldn't get on.
Lenzi didn't like the drug use and shit.
Right.
He's a lot like Fulci in that regard. Like they didn't play that shit. You know, like that was part of it. But also it's probably egos with Merle or Merle or what's his name? Their egos clashed, I heard. So
yeah. Very much so. Maurizio Merli, he had a temper. That's kind of a theme with a lot of the Italian stars and directors of the time. I mean, Lucio Fulci, who we'll be talking about in our second feature, had that legendary temper and short fuse. Very no nonsense. There's probably
it's so funny too because Merle, he's running around, he's smacking somebody like every 2 fucking minutes. You know, like
You know
what I mean? You know, you can imagine the people at the time though. They're going through this crazy shit that's going on in Italy, and they needed, like, I'm sure when they're watching this, they're like, yeah, this guy's doing some shit that we wish we could do against these, these crime organizations or whatever. You know,
it's funny when you watch this movie because I mean there is humor at times, unintentional humor that really hits. The inspector cannot walk 2 feet without somebody being assaulted or murdered or raped. I mean, he's just like, he cannot catch a break. And the interactions between him and the hunchback, Tomas Milian, in this are just wild. A little bit bizarre. I mean, there's that scene where Tanzi just kicks Vincenzo, who's the hunchback's name, kicks him right in the balls, and then there's lines like, "You ruined my eggs." If you
right. And there's a scene where he makes him swallow a bullet and shit. And, there's a slaughterhouse scene. That's the scene you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Inspector Tanzi is a badass with a very, very short fuse. The Dirty Harry, he's Dirty Harry without the impulse control.
He's on steroids. He's Dirty Harry on steroids.
Yes, violence is always the answer.
Right.
I think the Hunchback's such a cool villain because you kind of feel sorry for him at first. It's like he's kind of pathetic, and then he's basically being tortured by this inspector. Once again, I mean, probably to a lot of people, the inspector would be the bad guy today, but
right,
not back then, I'm sure, but I mean, like, so you got casinos getting raided, bank robberies in this. You got there's necessary dirty police work involved. To be vague, I don't want to spoil the film, but there's there's overdose of drugs done on purpose to somebody. I mean, it's pretty dark in some areas. There's a gang rape. Holy shit, man. This movie it's like hitting all that shit. It's
quite brutal. Yeah, the giant wooden dildo that comes into play at one point.
Yeah. I was like, holy shit, dude.
Oh man, that scene is really hard to watch, even by today's standards.
And then the boyfriend, he got his ass whooped and thrown into a trunk of a car, and he's got to listen to this shit.
Yeah. I enjoyed because once again, Inspector Tansey in this. Sorry if I ever screw up the name. I always revert to some of these other names since this, pseudo sequels and what have you. But
it's
Inspector Tansey is a one-man army. The scene where he has the fight scene in the pinball cafe or whatever that was.
Yeah, that's just like you know what I mean. I mean, you got 7 guys or some shit, and you're just knocking everybody. I mean,
he just fucks up everybody, and then kind of a theme in a lot of Eurocrime. You would always have like usually a rich kid, crooked politician's kid, would always kind of be a villain. That was something that you'd see a lot. And after this fight scene where he just pretty much wipes out everybody, we get this crazy car chase, and
oh man, the car chases with Lenzi are fucking epic. You know what I mean? They really are.
They're a strong point, I think, definitely in all of these films. But with coming back to the Maurizio Melli, I literally hadn't seen any of his work for up until about a year ago.
Right.
And I mean, the guy and Thomas Milian, the two of them are probably two of my favorite Italian actors now. And the way they just work off each other as well is outstanding.
Is that right that this film didn't have like a true, proper, unedited cut until like 2019?
I believe so. Yeah, I know this was very tough until the which I should show it off, the Grindhouse releasing version came out.
Yeah, I thought I had that damn thing, man.
Nice.
Yeah, it's in fact this is kind of cool, but also a bit of a pain in the ass when you're trying to close it. But it comes with a Tough Ones bullet pen.
Oh wow.
Okay,
nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it has some fun gimmicks on that particular set, including the soundtrack too, which we'll talk about that.
Yeah, that's always a bonus.
Yeah, always nice to have that CD. I enjoy that quite much. And so a little bit, and we'll jump back into the movie. It also gets a little bit strange because the machine gun bearing madman Vincenzo, he returns. Actually, Tomas Milian also plays the Hunchback again, and his twin brother in the Tough Ones spin-off movie Brothers Till We Die.
Right.
Brilliant film.
That's the one I thought we were doing it, because it's easy to mix them up,
Very easy. And yet at the same time, I'll tell you guys out there, you're not going to be lost if you jump into any of these at any point. It's never, something that you had to see the other one to understand what was going on in the Tough Ones. But yeah, and he also played in Lenzi's Free Hand for a Tough Cop as well. There's just so much crossover with these movies. And I think these are entertaining as hell. They would never be made this way now, just the way opinions have sort of changed on crime and punishment. I'm sure Inspector Tansey would not be looked upon very well today.
Yeah.
He would be canceled. Yes. He would be canceled hard.
You got Ivan Razumov in a small role, but damn, he's as slimy as he ever has been in this movie.
He has a small role, and also Ottaviano Dell'Acqua, who everybody will know as the poster art worm zombie for Fulci's Zombie. He pops up in here. It's and like I said, even though Merrily and Franco Nero play different characters between this and High Crime, which good news, because High Crime is hitting 4K from Blue Underground sometime this year, so you will be able to get that. I highly recommend High Crime because it is really one of the greats, and probably box office wise it's up there. That and Violent Rome are must sees if you enjoy this.
So that's out on 88 Films as well. I think just recently come out, High Crime. Yeah, I've heard as well what Dan said, that's supposed to be one of the high points of all these films, Franco Nero. So I'm definitely going to be getting that one.
Yes, that is to be checked out. And it is actually the Assault with the Deadly Weapon cut that came out through a New York City distributor called Aquarius Releasing. I think the Brutal Justice, maybe it was, tagline was Inspector Tansey makes Dirty Harry look like Mr. Clean. So I definitely have to look into getting some poster art with that tagline because I like it so much.
Man. Yeah. And Dardano Sacchetti wrote this one, right? Him and Lenzi.
Yes.
I think
Yes. Great writing. This also is kind of the power trio between Umberto Lenzi, the star Maurizio Merrily, and also the music by Franco Michelizzi, who is kind of the Ennio Morricone of Eurocrime. His name's not as well known, but his music added so much to these different movies, and those three together produced some of the big ones in the genre.
Yeah, all the themes I've heard that they've done, are superb. But the thing with Dardano, which was quite funny, because Lenzi was interviewed, and he said about Dardano, he said he wasn't a great writer, but he said what he would do is he would take scenes from every single different film, give him 24 hours, lock him away, and he'll come out with a script. So he said he was fast, and that was the main reason, he liked him. He was fast, and he could be, on point. But if you notice, he does pinch a lot of different scenes from different films, like Jali as well, So I thought that was like really interesting.
It's funny. It reminds me of a conversation I had years ago at a convention, and somebody was criticizing David Dakota, and this person did not care for David Dakota. He's like, I don't understand how he's still making movies. The guy's not talented. And my response, and I certainly dislike some David Dakota movies, but my response was, how many people can shoot a movie in like 3 days? Right. That's why. It's so hard.
Or like a Franco, same thing.
Absolutely. I would say more impressive with Franco too, because certainly we'll be talking a lot about Franco. In fact, our next episode will start diving into our first of, I'm sure, many just Franco films. But over 200 movies.
Yeah.
And some of them are pretty complex.
Insane, man. Yeah.
That's not all just quick weekend jobs either. Some of those were big stars, big budgets early on. So, but getting back to tough ones, maybe as we review more of these, we can rank them a little bit more. We don't want to spoil too much for you, but I would say that this is a must see if you like these movies. It's not my favorite, which we'll probably come along to that eventually. But I do think there's just something incredibly entertaining about this.
It doesn't let up from the word go.
Sure,
it just does not let up.
You throw that on, you're not going to be bored. Like, there's not a minute going to go by where you're just like, no, there's something happening, and there's something like jaw dropping all the time. Seems like.
Oh
yeah. And I mean, I don't know how much you're going to go into doing like certain scenes or spoilers, because I know I'm not going to give away certain spoilers. But I've got to mention, Tansy's girlfriend. When she's like harassed in that, is it like a yard,
junkyard. like a junkyard?
And then she's put through like kind of like this car crushes. Is she going to go through that or what? But all that stuff, I mean,
that suspense is pretty intense. It really is.
Yeah.
Because first watch, you don't know what's going to happen.
And that's like really early on as well. And like when you've got that gang as well, with the baby face lead guy, and they rape that girl in like a lover's lane. It's just
I
don't
think
hold back.
They don't, and I think just the way they shot action back then. I mean, the car chases were all just following in the footsteps of French Connection, and they were just really thrilling. The rooftop chase sequence with Ivan Rassimov, the ambulance,
great.
Right?
Yeah.
The big ambulance finale. I mean,
the stuntmen were incredible. I mean, they were fearless. I mean, damn fearless. I mean,
yes, yeah, and. For those of you out there, fans of 80s action movies, it didn't start in the 80s. You really got to jump back to the 70s and watch some of the Eurocrime classics like this. And just really kick-ass finale. And once again, there is some humor in this as well. So it's
there is.
Before you jump into the really nasty shit, which our second one is not a lot of laughs.
There's not a lot of fun. There's a couple.
Right.
That's maybe some of it's unintentional, but there's like a couple scenes that are definitely, and But
Tomas Milian is very, very funny. He really is, and while still being able to tune it up when he needs to be sinister, which he gets there.
His range is incredible. I mean,
fantastic range. Yeah, I mean. It's a shame he's not better known, but I mean he had a hell of a career. There's a lot of spaghetti westerns to jump into for him, and Tomas Milian. I mean, he did a series of movies. I believe there was 11 of them where he played Nico Giraldi. They were cop films, and they became a little more humorous as they went along, but. He did 11 of them. Cop in Blue Jeans with Jack Palance, Little Italy. In fact, Cop in Blue Jeans was like the number 3, I believe it was, film in all of Italy that time. And that's about that year, whenever that came out in 76, I believe that would have been same year. Milian was at the top of the box office. So these were by no means B movies. And I envy any of you out there that get to dive in for the first time. So
man. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, it's been like the last year just going into these has been a trip, man. And like I say, there's not one Poliziotteschi film that I don't like so far. And I know there's going to be bad as good as, good and bad in every kind of subgenre. But batting average is great so far, so I'm going to keep watching them.
I mean, to be honest, my first one that I've ever saw was probably, but it's also it's a hybrid. It's not a full, like these are full Poliziotteschi, but it's under your daughters, That's
Okay, yeah.
That's the one that got like the first one I actually saw, but it's also a giallo, so I don't know if that really counts.
Right.
But
like the
elements
benchmark for me, like the high benchmark for me would be Almost Human. I mean, that was probably one of the first. I know I've seen the Jolly crossovers, like Dirk said, but in terms of just like one of them straight, I saw that when I was just blown away.
I'm amazed because, I mean, obviously he has a love of the spaghetti Western, but I'm shocked Tarantino hasn't tried to do his take on a Poliziotteschi film.
I am too, man. It's interesting you brought that because, it seems like he should be the one like to do that.
Yeah, I feel like you could bring it back. I mean, it wouldn't be exactly the same because it's probably not going to be made in Italy at this, or produced in Italy, I should say.
Yeah.
At this point, but I think there's strong possibility for a revival. We've had certain filmmakers have tried to revive the giallo, sometimes with mixed results, but there really hasn't been a strong attempt to do these movies. And socially we find ourselves in very similar times that Rome was in back in the 70s, so it feels like a revival for this, just the revenge film in general, would do quite well. So but so just closing it out, obviously we all recommend it, but what do you rate this one?
I'll give the tough ones Rome armed to the teeth. I give it probably give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay, Darren, what say you?
Right. So I just got to mention one scene quickly about
go for it.
The woman who gets her bag snatched. And she gets dragged by the motorbike. Is absolutely brilliant. That scene alone is worth watching.
You think that's for humor, or do you think that's unintentional humor, or what?
I don't know actually, because it's played kind of straight, but
it is, but it's funny. I couldn't help but laugh. But
this is a high 8 out of 10 for me. It's up there with not quite as good as Almost Human, but it's up there. I regard this really highly. So it hasn't changed. It's been an 8 now. I've seen it like twice now.
No, I'm an 8 as well. It's among the best. And like I said, if you want to see the sequel to this, and again, hopefully I kept all that straight for you guys, but The Cynic, the Rat, and the Fist is a sequel to this. With Tomas Milian once again playing a different villain. So that one you want to check out after this. You can jump in. You're not going to be confused. So
you got the Merle with the mustache.
It's sad he passed. Maurizio Merle passed in 1989. Sadly, so he didn't get to go on, and at that particular point, the film industry in Italy had changed quite a bit. So who knows where he would have been at that point? But sadly, we were deprived of more work from him. And do
you know, Dan, if he ever made a giallo film?
Maurizio Merle?
Yeah.
I don't. You know what? I have to double check. He was not known for that. He was very
think of one offhand.
I can't think of none.
Obviously, Thomas Milian, he did Don't Talk to Dublin. I'd love to see more Merle in the giallos as well. Would have been great. He's detective, and
he was actually quite upset at times because people would always call him the Franco Nero lookalike, because that's why he got his big break, because Franco Nero didn't want to do a follow-up to High Crime. But that's really not fair when you look at what he did, because he had some massive success with his films. And
it's not fair at all.
Franco Nero is better remembered, I feel, because he was an icon across genres. I mean, Django, he was the spaghetti Western icon. When I think Westerns, Franco Nero is the first guy I think. It's not John Wayne. I was never into those films, and it's not even Clint Eastwood. And I love his spaghetti Westerns, but Franco Nero is like my go-to for that.
I think with with him, he kind of done every genre as well. I mean, he did the Fifth Chord, and he excelled in any genre he put. Whereas Mitchell Merley might have just been his thing. The kind of typecast maybe, but Franco was so versatile. He could play anything.
He really could, and still active. He played the Pope in the Pope's Exorcist just recently. So, still hammering out all these movies into his into his 80s, I believe, at this point. So, all right. So next up, our next film from 1980 and director Lucio Fulci is Contraband. And in this one, if you're unfamiliar, Naples, Italy, an idealistic cigarette smuggler named Luca runs into problems when a sadistic drug-dealing gangster from France decides to muscle his way into operations. As he tries to wipe out the competition, all hell breaks loose and the bodies start piling up. Luca joins forces with rival smugglers and the local mafia to counteract the power play, which only increases the body count until the explosive gunpowder and gut-bursting conclusion.
Yeah.
All right. So at this point, the Poliziotteschi, this is like the tail end. There's almost nothing after 1980. It's really the last year. There might have been a couple stragglers that came out a year or two later, but this was really it.
It's so odd too that Fulci did the same thing in this genre that he did with the spaghetti western type, in a way, like Master Time. Master Time, is early on, but you know what I mean. Like he comes at the tail end and then makes a great fucking movie, like For the Apocalypse, But.
It's there was almost no real release for this outside of in the US or the UK back then. I mean, this was very much an Italian production with kind of a true to life story of the Neapolitan smugglers at the time, who also helped finance the movie. They were
that's what I heard.
They provided the boats. So like very much, I mean, it's like the mafia back in the day having their fingers in a lot of porn films in the US. Like it was the same. I mean, you had to cooperate.
And Fulci got along with it. He said they were nice guys. I was like, what the
I think he's got to say that, but yeah.
But, very strange that it took Fulci this long to tackle this genre.
Because
again,
I mean, he brings it. I mean, even though this is a Policio, I mean, this has got the gore just like a horror film. You know what I mean? And even some of the, scenes, we'll get into it, but some of the scenes you see later in some of his other films, like but
it's, I think in a lot of ways, even probably more upsetting, because of the true to life aspect versus, you're going to be a little bit detached when it's zombies on screen and, not something that you're usually going to be afraid of in your real day-to-day life. But there was a lot more to Lucio Fulci than just horror. I mean, he was quite accomplished across genres.
Oh yeah, man. I recently watched Beatrice Cenci, and what a great film. I mean, and he did comedies. He did musicals. Holy shit. What the hell?
A lot of which none of that's out. Like some of that early musical stuff, the teen films that he did. None of that's out, and I realize that's a very different audience, but I mean, Lucio Fulci, I'm gonna buy him.
I'm still curious. I still got to be a completionist when it comes to the poet of the macabre, I guess you'd say.
Absolutely.
I mean, some of them they've got to come out sooner or later. There may be like a box set of some of his comedies. I mean, just the name, people are going to buy them just for the name alone.
He's got one with Edwidge.
Yeah. I mean, I would be
think of it
curious
right
to see
offhand,
that, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I think it would sell. I have zero doubts that the cult movie fans will want to be completists for Fulci. And so this is much darker and downbeat than your typical Poliziotteschi. Those movies were always violent, but this goes to some dark places. There's not a lot of yucks in this.
It's just a cruel, dark, bleak, violent, brutal. I mean, with horror, gore, it's fucking insane. But
it is. There are some alternate titles, Luca the Smuggler or just the Smuggler, I believe, in the UK. At one point. I know it was also put out as Naples Connection as well.
That's what I got. I flipped my. I think that's the old, maybe one of the old poster arts or whatever.
Nice. I need to get that.
Yeah, this is one we'll dive more, but I highly recommend. It didn't even have a US VHS release until 1987, and it was a very obscure release. So until this hit DVD, this was something that, outside of Italy, like it was very obscure. Yeah.
But it's damn, I just had a blank. Never mind. Go ahead.
Oh no, if you're a horror fan, this is essentially made much like a horror film. Much like for the Apocalypse, another Fulci spaghetti western, starring Fabio Testi, who we haven't talked about yet, but he is our lead in this one, Luca. And where does this rank for you guys? Because I think it really holds up well. This one's dark. It takes you to some dark places.
Yeah, this one's very high, man, for me. I'm gonna say probably a 9.5, maybe a 10, damn near. I mean, I really like it that much. It's just holy shit, dude. You got like people getting their guts blowed out. You got throats getting shot out. You got faces getting shot the fuck up. Like it's just insanity. You got this brutal rape that is just. I mean, he leaves it to the imagination, but the way it's edited is like disturbing as hell.
And they make him listen to it on the phone. Like it goes a lot further than they generally go in this genre. Not that is a theme in the Poliziotteschi. There is a lot of sexual violence, but Fulci ups it. And women don't fare very well in this. I mean, there's one lady in this who gets her face melted with a blowtorch.
Oh man, that's me.
Man. Holy shit.
I'm probably going to surprise you, because as much as I do like this film, I wouldn't rank it as one of the top Italian crime films I've seen. And I'll tell you why, and it's probably just minor, but I'm not massive for like drug films and all that, and I love a shootout, and some of the violence in it is just incredible. It's typical Fulci.
It also has, like, what I've noticed now, because I've seen it 3 times now. It's gotten better every time.
Okay,
and it's damn, man. Like he's not your typical protagonist either, because he's also a bad guy.
Oh yeah, no, he's a piece of shit and quite selfish too. Yeah, that's one thing that I know a lot of people have thrown out about this movie. It's like that do criticize it. It's like, who do I root for? This guy.
I don't think you're supposed to. I really don't. I mean, he's a family man. He does have a moral code, but he's going to stick to his code of ethics too over his own family in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know,
and kind of ends up damning him in this film.
Right.
So I think that's kind of the issue. You kind of have to prep yourself for this one because it doesn't make you feel good. Even the bad guys that get brutally slaughtered in this one, and brains getting blown out, hooks going through skin. This really will appeal to the gore hound. Oh yeah, like
there's bombings and like the burn victims look like fucking zombies, on the floor and shit. You're like, holy shit.
Yeah, I think the only bit of comedy in here, you do get the Fulci cameo in this one, which is quite funny. I won't spoil it, but you get the Fulci cameo, and then there's mass arrests at one point, and this foul-mouthed nun, fuck you, Buster. Fuck you, Buster, I think was the line. And I was like, okay, well, at least you made me laugh once. And
then you got the one guy, he's getting busted, and they're taking him out while he's trying to eat his pasta.
Yeah.
And he's still trying to eat his pasta while they're taking his ass off. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you rate like Visitedbyvoices performance in this? Because I thought he was outstanding in this one.
And a lot of people shit on Fabio. I don't understand.
I know, I was surprised. This is probably his best role, and I mean, he's good in What Have You Done to Solange.
Solange is probably my favorite role of his, to be honest. But
yeah, there's probably not much between them for me in terms of.
But this is a good performance, man, all the way around.
I also recommend The Big Racket from Enzo Castellari. That's another good Fabio Testi movie. I mean, he's one we could name movies all day. Go down his filmography, and you're into
Red Rings of Fear, which is
that's another good one.
Third part, the Schoolgirls in Peril trilogy.
He's a very physical actor because he also was a stuntman. In fact, he was a stuntman on The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And
but they said something about he was too pretty or something to be one of the characters that was supposed to be a dirty, grimy bastard or something. I don't know. Maybe
some people have accused him of maybe being a little, he needed to be a little bit higher and go a little more over the top. But I feel like a crime boss like this wouldn't act that way because he's seen some shit. He's done some shit. He's slaughtered people. Even with his wife and, the horrible assault, which I will warn you out there, that's much more graphic in this than a lot of other movies in this genre. So prepare yourself. But I think detachment kind of works for this character. Like, he's going to get mad. He's going to kill you, but he's not freaking out every 2 seconds either. So
there's also a scene early on that is such a great scene with him when he's with his brother, and it reminds me of the scene in The Godfather with Sonny. You see the way it's shot when this guy's going down the side of the cliff, mountain, whatever. I mean, it's in slow motion. It's a beautifully shot, and it's Fulci, man. You can see Fulci all over this shit. It's and Sergio Salvati, right? The cinematographer for For the Apocalypse, The Psychic, The Beyond, City of the Living Dead, Zombie 2. I mean, House by the Cemetery, same cinematographer. But
my back.
Oh, did you cut out there?
Yeah.
You hear us okay?
I'm back now.
Yeah, you hear us all right? Our audio's coming through.
Yeah, it just kind of froze, and then I just come back.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go
on
No, that's fine. But yeah, I mean, this plays so well. The sulfur pit fight, which was just wild. I mean, one of the more badass scenes in this movie is when he just takes the deformed body at that point of the guy he kills in the sulfur pit, and he just fucking throws it into the Don's bedroom. Just like throws him right through the fucking window.
Right, like Friday the 13th style or some shit.
Yeah, no, don't sleep on this one if you're a horror fan. This goes well beyond just being, an action crime flick. So,
and then I don't want to spoil the end, but I love the end. I love the way it ends. It's just like enough is enough. It's time. It's time for some shit to be taken care of, kind of deal,
Yes. Yeah. It's like I said, this isn't just happily ever after. Bad guys are dead. Like there's a lot of awful stuff happened. Flawed hero. I think it makes it interesting. I did want to mention one other cast member. All the villains in this do an excellent job. Very slimy, very nasty. Ivana Monti as Adele, the wife, of course. Not an easy role to play. She had to do some difficult stuff here. Marcel Bozzuffi as Francois. He was great. You do get a very small role from Jess Franco regular Ajita Wilson, who has a very tiny role here. You know her from Sodomania and many different Franco films.
You got Father Thomas from City of the Living Dead playing the police chief for Brizio.
Yeah, I did notice. Yeah,
for Brizio
I couldn't place who he was. Yeah.
Yeah, Fabrizio Jovine. Yeah.
So when did it was this film what was either one of his films either side of this then? Because obviously Zombie and
this is right after Zombie.
Yeah. Okay. So which one followed this one then? Would it be The Beyond or Hates by the Cemetery?
That's hard to call.
They
City of Living Dead was easy as well, wasn't it? City of Living Dead. So
yeah. It's. I mean, he was hammering. He couldn't miss at this point in his career.
Right.
You're very much in that golden Fulci era, and just watch them all. If you haven't seen it, watch them all. I highly recommend everything that he was doing at this time.
And you got Venantini.
Yes.
The mad father in City of the Living Dead with the drill scene on Radici.
And his son in the City of the Living Dead was actually, the boy who plays the part when he goes running in the streets and all that. That was his actual son as well. That guy's son.
So you'll recognize a lot of the same faces from some of the other Fortune. So
he Venantino, I got to meet him at Chiller before he died.
Oh wow.
So maybe on a show where it makes sense, I'll show off. I've got a poster signed by most everybody from that movie. Well, not Fulci, sadly, but so yeah. So in closing thoughts on Contraband, it is, in my opinion as well, one of the must-sees for Fulci. If you like just violent, downbeat, but also fun. I mean, like I said, you like those one man army type films, just this time with a more flawed lead, or more flawed lead character, I should say. Like, this just hits every note. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want to give this one a 10. In fact, I'm going to, because in my heart it is a 10. So I'll give it a 10.
Yeah, I gotta go 10, man, because I mean, like I said, when the first time I seen it, I don't think I went that high, but and also I gotta bring up this. So this is Fulci's 34th film.
Mm-hmm.
So he's 20 years he's been making films at this point. And it's, I mean, damn, I mean, anyway.
He check it all out. There's not a lot of bad there. Even some of his later TV movies, certainly not on par with this era, but they're all worth watching. I mean, I can't think of a Fulci movie that I hate, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Not that I hate, no. There's some that, lesser that I wouldn't watch as much. That's something else I was going to bring up. I highly recommend watching this in with the Italian track with the English subtitles, because some of the translation is kind of wonky. And,
It is.
Right.
You might want to watch it both ways because it's funny sometimes.
Yeah, I did. I've watched it.
For me, it's like I'm well in the minority, but it's like a strong 6. But I'm the type I've got to watch something like 2 or 3 times, and I'm sure it's definitely going to end up a 7 or 8 probably. But just on initial viewing, and I don't know, because Dirk's been on about this for ages. Maybe I kind of just went in expecting a bit too much, but
I might have hyped it up too much for you, but
but I'll give it another go. And it's not like I didn't enjoy it. I think it's a great film.
I love the track. We forgot to bring up Fabio Frizzi.
Yeah.
Music.
The music is outstanding. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, great music. Just this one gives you everything you could want. So guys, we will be back with another Dead End Drive-In shortly, and we're going to be covering Vampiros Lesbos from Jess Franco, and we're also going to be covering The Grapes of Death from Jean Rollin. So I'm really eager to talk about that. So we'll get back to horror, but we still have all sorts of stuff coming your way on this show. We'll have sex comedies, we'll have horror, slashers, you name it. We're going to cover a lot of different grounds. Spaghetti westerns, we will eventually get to that as well. And on that note, once again, you can find me on Flesh Wound Features and also Region Free, of course. And you guys can be found on Subjective Perspective Collective. But where else can we find you? Because I know we're all traveling YouTubers here.
Well, we also do Eurocult every 2 weeks on Dead Pit. And some random stuff here and there, but
Dirk does he does the one with Gizmo as well, where they pick out their films. And all that.
There's something rotten in the collection. On Video Man and Gizmo's channel. It's pretty
but
cool.
we pop up on pretty much, like, it's a close knit community. I mean, I'm doing a slasher thing with Chris, See the Slasher Dude, as well, every once or twice a month. So just keep a lookout. We're everywhere, really.
Yeah, I always tell everybody, sub to everybody. You may not be able to watch everybody, but please subscribe to everyone. There've been some losses in the community recently, and it's cool seeing everybody rally. Dave, Savage Zombie Reviews, getting him over 1,000 in a relatively short time. Even
that was brilliant. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a good community, and that's what Visited by Voices is all about. So be sure to check out all the other shows on the channel. There's more coming your way. And also, couldn't be here tonight, but check out Keith at Goraphobe. And,
absolutely,
and on that note, gentlemen, we will see you guys back here next time. You all have a good one out there.
Bye, guys.
Later, y'all.